It drops without warning 1 minute ago. A palace announcement lands like a controlled explosion. Not celebratory, not warm, just precise language that feels defensive. A protocol change for Princess Catrin, effective immediately. And in royal life, immediate changes never mean convenience, they mean containment. Aides go quiet. Calendars lock. Phones stop being used. Because if the palace is changing rules around Catrin, it's not protecting her image. It's protecting the crown from what she represents. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Now look closer at what happens in the first hour, because it's never the public statement that tells the truth, it's the ripples. Overnight, engagements that were confirmed are suddenly under review. Private visits become postponed indefinitely. Staff who usually speak in soft codes start using hard words like security and sensitivity, as if language itself might leak something dangerous. There's a new silence around her name, a sudden insistence on privacy, not as a kindness, but as a wall. Communication lines tighten. Fewer calls, fewer messages, fewer people allowed in the room. And when a palace says privacy at that volume, it's rarely about peace, it's about control. Because inside a monarchy, there's an unspoken law no one prints and everyone obeys. Protocol doesn't change unless something has already gone wrong or is about to. Routine adjustments happen quietly. Real crises come with wording like this: clean, bureaucratic, unnervingly calm. The kind of calm that feels rehearsed, measured, sterilized. It's the royal version of a fire alarm with the sound turned down. And that's why the tone matters more than the content. This statement isn't trying to reassure you, it's trying to preempt you. It's trying to get ahead of a story the palace fears it won't be able to stop. And then there's Princess Catrin, because this isn't just any name. Catrin is the symbol they point to when they want stability to feel inevitable. The future made present. The steady smile, the controlled gestures, the polished calm that reads like certainty. She's the one they place in photographs when the institution needs to look unshaken. And that's the cruel paradox. The more the palace relies on her to represent control, the less control she's allowed to have over her own life. Publicly, she is poise. Privately, she is pressure constant, invisible, and relentless. The kind that doesn't bruise skin but cracks the inside of a person until even breathing feels like a performance. So when the palace releases a protocol change specifically for her, you have to ask what they're really moving. Not just schedules power. Not just access allegiance. These changes don't land in a vacuum. They land on people who have been waiting for a shift. People who benefit when someone else is tightened, limited, managed. In every royal adjustment, there are winners and losers. And the most dangerous role isn't the loser, it's the scapegoat. Because the moment a system feels threatened, it starts looking for the simplest story to tell the public. A single figure to carry the weight of whatever comes next. And the chilling part is how easily a beloved symbol can be reframed as a liability, with one well-placed line of administrative necessity. That's why insiders don't hear safety when they read the announcement. They hear urgency disguised as procedure. They hear fear disguised as formality. The phrase effective immediately sits there like a blade, because immediacy in royal terms means decisions are being made faster than reputations can be protected. And behind the scenes, you can almost feel the gears turning, advisors aligning, factions calculating, doors closing in quiet coordination. Whisper networks ignite, not with gossip, but with something sharper, confirmation. Because the first whispers aren't about what changed today, they're about what didn't. They say the document wasn't drafted this morning. They say it existed weeks ago like a contingency plan no one wanted to admit they might need. Written, revised, filed, and buried, waiting for the right or wrong moment to be pulled out and activated. And now, suddenly, it's live. Reactivated today, as if someone saw a deadline approaching and decided the palace could no longer afford to wait. And if that's true, then today isn't the start of this story. Today is the moment the palace stopped pretending it could avoid it. And here's the emotional punch no one wants to say out loud. Catrin hears it last. Not in a private briefing, not with careful preparation, not with the dignity of being told what's changing in her own life. She learns the way the world learns, through an announcement designed to look orderly, even as it rearranges the ground beneath her feet. Imagine that moment, the face that has to remain composed, the heartbeat that can't show, the realization that the institution she's been carrying is now adjusting itself around her like she's the problem. And once you realize this wasn't written today, the question becomes terrifying: what did the palace see coming that forced it to rewrite Catrin's role in real time? Protocol sounds harmless until you understand it's the palace's language of control, an invisible constitution that decides who stands close enough to matter, who gets the first phone call, who's allowed to speak without being corrected, and who gets quietly erased when the room needs to look calm. This new rule change isn't about etiquette. It's about access, visibility, narrative. And the terrifying part is how it reframes Catrin, not as family, not as a person with a pulse and a private life, but as an asset to be managed, a future protected by paperwork and policed by procedure. Because when the palace changes protocol around one person, it's admitting that person has become a risk, and the institution's oldest trick is to call power process so nobody can argue with it. That's how minor adjustments become weapons without ever sounding like one. A signature requirement here, a revised approval chain there, a new phrase for security reasons that can shut down questions before they're even asked. On paper it reads like housekeeping, but in reality it rewrites hierarchy without announcing it, shifting influence the way tides move rocks, slowly, silently, and then all at once. The palace can always shrug and say, "It's just procedure," while procedure becomes a shield against accountability. And Catrin, serene to the world, flawlessly composed, a gentle smile that never wavers, feels the shift immediately. Because what protocol really controls isn't just where she goes. It controls who reaches her first, what she's told, what she isn't told, and how long she's allowed to sit with the truth before it's shaped into something safer. From the outside, she looks unbreakable. Inside, she's doing what royals learn young: survive pressure without revealing fear. This protocol change doesn't just tighten rules, it tightens oxygen. Her calendar becomes a cage lined with velvet language, adjusted, optimized, streamlined words that sound caring until you realize they're measuring her life like inventory. She hates it most when she realizes she's become a battlefield for other people's agendas, a symbol that factions can fight over without ever touching them directly. And loyalty in a monarchy isn't just devotion, it's a trap. Because the crown demands obedience while the human body quietly begs for self-preservation. Then the twist slips in, hidden in the fine print. The kind of detail that would mean nothing to the public, and everything to anyone who understands the palace's real machinery. A quiet restriction that affects who can brief her. Not a ban that would cause scandal, just a restructuring of who is authorized to update and advise. Translation: fewer voices, fewer perspectives, tighter control over what reaches her ears. Catrin feels it like a hand closing around her options, and a darker suspicion blooms. What if this isn't meant to protect her at all? What if it's designed to provoke her, to corner her into frustration, to tempt her into one misstep, one moment of visible resistance that can be recorded, labeled, and used? A confidant says it quietly, like a warning passed under a locked door. They'll call it care. It's control. Catrin keeps smiling because that's the job, even when she feels managed, monitored, and reshaped by invisible committees. And just as she starts to wonder who benefits from tightening her world, a memo title surfaces in a whisper too clinical to be real, too cold to be accidental: Catrin Containment Framework. The words hit like ice, because frameworks aren't written for celebrations, they're written for disasters. Then, as if the palace itself wants to prove she's not imagining the threat, a note reaches her through a channel that shouldn't exist anymore. A message with no signature and no mercy. You are not the only target. And once Catrin realizes she isn't the only target, the protocol shift stops being personal, it becomes strategic. Because if there's a containment framework, then the palace isn't preparing for a celebration, it's preparing for a breach. Rowan doesn't need a briefing to understand what's happening. He reads protocol the way generals read maps, looking for choke points, escape routes, and who holds the keys. The palace calls it protecting Catrin. Rowan hears the subtext, limiting her contact, shaping her exposure, controlling what she's allowed to know. And when the heir realizes the institution is rewriting his wife's boundaries without his consent, fear doesn't soften him, it sharpens him. Because Rowan lives two lives at once, the dutiful future king who nods at tradition, and the protective partner whose rage is disciplined, contained, and therefore dangerous. They call it the institution, but Rowan knows it's really a network: press handlers, advisors, donors, legal fixers, security chiefs, people who survive every reign by shaping reality before the public ever sees it. The moment the protocol change goes live, that shadow court doesn't ask what's fair. It asks what's controllable. It doesn't see Catrin as a person, it sees her as public meaning. A symbol to be positioned, and if necessary, reduced. Rowan can feel the claim being made over her, like an invisible hand moving her piece on a board he's expected to pretend he doesn't see. And that's the conflict that claws at him: support the machine and keep the peace, or challenge it and trigger retaliation that won't look like retaliation, just procedure. Then the first leaks begin, soft and timed, the kind designed to test the public's pulse. A source close to the palace offers context. A friendly columnist suddenly mentions strain and overwhelm in the same paragraph as Catrin's name, as if fragility is being introduced into her story on purpose. Another whisper follows, aimed at Rowan: volatile, emotional, difficult, anything to make his concern look like instability instead of love. And when your enemies can't attack you directly, they don't. They reshape the air around you until every breath feels suspicious. Even the king who once believed he commanded this machine begins to feel managed by it, watching decisions move through channels he didn't authorize, conversations rerouted into intermediaries, family reduced to carefully scheduled updates delivered by people with clipboards and cold eyes. That's when Rowan finds the twist he can't unsee. The change isn't traveling through the official approval chain. It's routing through something quieter, unofficial, an arrangement that feels like a back corridor in a building that swears it has no back corridors. Names appear on documents that shouldn't be there. Sign-offs happen too quickly. Access permissions shift without explanation. And someone benefits. Not abstractly, specifically. A senior royal whose influence grows when Catrin's influence shrinks, whose proximity to power becomes easier when hers is buffered by rules and gatekeepers. Rowan remembers the palace using unity as camouflage before smiling for the cameras, while knives moved beneath the language of duty, and the memory lands like a warning from his own past. So he begins gathering records the way a man prepares for war without declaring one. Drafts. Access logs. Approval trails. Message timestamps. He doesn't storm into rooms shouting, because he knows the palace feeds on spectacle and punishes it with decorum. Instead, he becomes quiet. Methodical. He studies the pattern behind the pattern, listening for what isn't said, watching who suddenly has the authority to brief Catrin and who no longer does. And when a courtier voice lowered, eyes darting, finally lets a phrase slip, it chills Rowan more than any headline ever could. This was ordered from above. Because once ordered from above is whispered, the question becomes deadly: who exactly is above an heir when the palace decides to move? And the answer doesn't arrive as a name at first, but as a strategy. Another whisper. Another warning, delivered like an instruction: if this goes wrong, We sacrifice her protector. And in that moment, Rowan understands the real plan isn't to protect Catrin at all. It's to survive her by controlling the reason, shaping the narrative, and, if necessary, removing the one person reckless enough to love her louder than the institution. Maren doesn't shout. She never has to. Her power lives in calm eyes and polite sentences that sound like concern while they tighten a noose. She praises Catrin publicly, offers support, insists the new protocol is for her well-being. Every word is soft, every intention sounds clean. But Rowan hears the machinery beneath the tenderness, because in a palace the most dangerous weapon isn't cruelty, it's care used as leverage. And Maren knows exactly how to make control look like compassion, how to turn help into a harness, how to smile while the walls move closer. Rowan doesn't take the bait of emotion. He presses with precision who requested the change, who signed off, who benefits, and why it was activated now. He watches Maren reframe, again and again, turning restriction into protection, turning containment into kindness. She doesn't deny his questions, she redirects them, like a trained strategist steering a conversation away from landmines. And in the middle of it all, the king sits in a quiet agony, pulled between spouse and heir, between love and legitimacy, between the woman who has helped him survive the crown and the son who is supposed to inherit it without tearing the institution apart. The air between them thickens with courtroom-level subtext. Nobody is speaking threats, but everyone is hearing them. Then Maren lets something slip, not a confession, not a mistake, but a calculated hint. She implies she has files, not gossip, not rumors, files. The kind that can be framed as safeguards, the kind that keeps scandals contained and reputations intact, the kind that can be used to protect the monarchy or to punish anyone who endangers it. Rowan feels the chill of it because he recognizes the tactic. If you can't dominate someone with authority, you dominate them with consequence. For a split second, he sees both sides of her humanity and calculation braided together so tightly they're impossible to separate. He understands she believes she's saving the crown. He also understands she might be willing to break people to do it. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Protocol changes often arrive after a breach, an incident, a leak, a threat, a mistake that almost happened and terrified the palace into rewriting the rules. Rowan follows the paper trail and finds gaps that don't look accidental. Names removed. Drafts rewritten. Approvals rerouted through unfamiliar hands. Chain of custody that reads like someone tidied the crime scene before the investigator arrived. The change is timed around a major public appearance, too perfect to be coincidence, as if the palace wanted Catrin present but not informed, visible but not empowered. That's when Rowan sees the real design. The protocol change isn't built to protect Catrin from the public. It's built to protect the palace from what Catrin might learn. A red-page restriction buried in formal language quietly narrows who can brief her and what she can be told. Her ignorance isn't an accident, it's being curated, shaped like a narrative, maintained like an asset. The gut punch lands hard. Catrin's life is being managed not only through her calendar, but through her access to truth itself. Even the king admits carefully, painfully, that he felt pulled by advisors, guided by voices that promised stability while tightening the net. And in that moment, Rowan understands the palace has been preparing two stories at once: family unity if he complies, and heir aggression if he resists. So Rowan prepares a counter-move that doesn't look like rebellion until it's too late to stop governance reform, access reform. An audit demand that forces daylight into the places the palace prefers to keep dim. He keeps his tone measured, his posture royal, his anger locked behind disciplined restraint. Maren watches him like she's measuring how far he'll go before she has to escalate. And when she finally leans in and says quietly, "Don't turn this into a war," it lands less like advice and more like a warning. Because when someone says don't make it a war, it usually means they already started one quietly. Then the final blow arrives without ceremony. A message, brief enough to be deniable and sharp enough to be unmistakable: stand down. And when the palace tells the heir to stand down, Rowan understands the enemy isn't outside the gates, it's inside the rulebook, hiding behind care, buried in protocol, and defended by the kind of people who call control a tradition and silence a necessary price. Rowan expects resistance from Maren. He expects discomfort from the king. He does not expect the signature trail to lead to the person praised as the monarchy's guardian, the stability architect, the quiet genius everyone credits for keeping the institution afloat when storms hit. The name sits on the approvals like a fingerprint you can't scrub out. Edits. Reroutes. Notes labelled routine security, as if control can be disguised as housekeeping. And that's the darkest truth of all, because if the protector is writing the rules that restrict Catrin, then protection isn't love, it's infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't care who it crushes, as long as the building stays standing. The more Rowan reads, the more the pattern reveals itself with cold precision. The architect's hand is everywhere, shaping the boundaries around Catrin, while Maren and Rowan are kept in friction, two forces pointed at each other, so they don't notice the third hand turning the wheel. That's the twist that makes Rowan's stomach drop. The architect benefits from the conflict itself. As long as Maren looks like the controller and Rowan looks like the aggressor, the machine stays unchallenged, the true author remains untouchable, and every necessary restriction becomes easier to justify. The king finally sees it too, and the realization is brutal. His reign wasn't simply guided by counsel, it was managed, curated, contained. He is the crown, yes, but also the client, steered by a system he once believed he commanded. And for a moment, you can feel the shame behind his restraint, the haunting awareness that stability has been sold to him like medicine and administered like a sedative. Rowan stands at the edge of a choice that doesn't feel like a choice at all: peace now or integrity later. If he keeps quiet, the palace stays smooth, the headlines stay polite, and Catrin remains safe inside a cage lined with velvet language. If he acts, he risks detonating the very story the monarchy survives on. And that's when an ally, someone sharp, loyal, and fearless, in the way only a truth-teller can be, leans in with a warning that feels like a countdown. If you wait, you lose. Not just politically. Morally. Emotionally. Because delay is how palaces win. They stretch time until courage turns into compromise, and outrage turns into routine. Rowan starts packaging proof for maximum impact: clean, undeniable, impossible to wave away as misunderstanding. A final reveal built not for gossip, but for governance. Not for revenge, but for reality. The architect doesn't panic. That's what makes them terrifying. They don't shout, don't threaten with volume, they threaten with consequence. A quiet message reaches Rowan, weighted with the kind of authority that doesn't need a crown to be obeyed. If you expose this, you destabilize everything. And suddenly destabilize isn't a warning, it's a weapon, because Rowan realizes stability is being used as a hostage. The palace isn't saying, "You'll hurt me." It's saying, "You'll hurt everyone and we'll make sure they blame you." And by the end, nobody walks away clean, not the king, not Maren, not even Rowan. Because protocol doesn't just organize life in a palace, it decides who is protected, who is controlled, and who becomes expendable when fear rises. Rowan confronts the stability architect directly, not a shadowy villain but a respected pillar, someone who smiles like a civil servant and speaks like a patriot. The king finally admits the darkest rule out loud, the one that explains everything. We survive by controlling stories. Maren's future becomes a question mark, maybe weakened, maybe repositioned, maybe quietly triumphant in a new corner of influence where she can still pull strings without being seen. Catrin's future becomes even crueler in its complexity, safer, yes, but shaped by restrictions she didn't choose. by gatekeepers she never appointed, by a life redesigned in the name of care. Rowan moves anyway, forcing reforms that look boring until you understand how revolutionary they are: audit authority that can't be blocked, calendar control that can't be hijacked, access reforms that break the red page silence and put truth back within reach. And then, just when the palace tries to seal the narrative, 4 leaked words appear like a bruise under makeup. Not the last change. It spreads fast because it sounds like prophecy, like threat, like confession. And the viral sting isn't what people think happened, it's what nobody explains, what nobody dares to clarify, what nobody can deny without exposing the machinery. Did you notice what wasn't explained? And if you think this was the end, look closer, because palaces don't bury secrets, they plant them, waiting for the next generation to inherit the roots. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.